Our country's history is replete with instances where valor and heroics are used to define the image of the nation. Our originating documents were considered both sound and aspirational, representing a culture that prevailed or would eventually prevail. We know this stance to be a falsehood. At the core of this country's history and its present state of affairs is its unwillingness or inability to confront and exorcise the stain that 350 years of enslavement and its aftermath embedded in the DNA of America. On this first day of Black History Month, we would like to raise the specter of hope, but also convey through our readings the conditions that existed in the past and their influence on the present. We have selected a series of readings to share with you today. The voices that spoke were frequently muffled or muted during their day, but their messages prevailed and conveyed a stark but hopeful assessment of America. We are honored to introduce the words of Frederick Douglass, Fannie Lou Hamer, Derek Bell, and Martin Luther King. Frederick Douglass was the best-known and most influential African-American leader of the 1800s. He was born enslaved in Maryland around 1817 and managed to escape to the North in 1838. He traveled to Massachusetts and settled in New Bedford, working as a laborer to support himself. In 1841, he attended a convention of the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society and quickly came to the attention of its members, eventually becoming a leading figure in the New England anti-slavery movement. He settled in Rochester, New York, where he published the North Star, an abolitionist newspaper. He directed the local Underground Railroad, which smuggled escaped enslaved people into Canada, and also worked to end racial segregation in Rochester's public schools. In 1852, the leading citizens of Rochester asked Douglass to give a speech as part of their 4th of July celebration. Douglass accepted their invitation. In his speech, excerpts of which you are about to hear, however, Douglass delivered a scathing attack on the hypocrisy of a nation celebrating freedom and independence with speeches, parades, and platitudes, while within its borders, nearly 4 million humans were enslaved. The words of Frederick Douglass.
Fellow citizens, and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of freedom and natural justice embodied in the Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to speak to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then my task would be light and my burden easy and delightful. My subject, then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day and its popular characteristics from the slave's point of view. Standing here, identified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine, I do not hesitate to declare, with all of my soul, that the character and the conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your shouts of liberty and equality hollow mock. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all of your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up the crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation of earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than there are of the people of the United States at this very hour.
One of 20 children born in 1918 to a family of sharecroppers in the Mississippi Delta, Fannie Lou Hamer grew up picking cotton and cutting corn and attended school through the 6th grade, all that was allowed for those destined for the fields. She married a fellow sharecropper, and the two attempted to scratch out a living in Ruleville, Mississippi, one of the world's most oppressive places to live if you were black. In 1962, Miss Hamer's life took a dramatic turn when she attended a voting rights meeting organized by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and decided that she wanted to vote. On August 31st, 1962, she boarded a bus to Indianola, Mississippi with 17 others to try to register to vote. The next day, she and her husband were forced off the plantation where she had lived and worked for 17 years. Ms. Hamer immediately went to work as a field organizer for SNCC. Returning home from a training workshop in June 1963, her bus was intercepted by the police, and she and 2 others were taken to jail in Winona, Mississippi, and mercilessly beaten. This brave woman suffered permanent damage to her kidneys. SNCC had formed the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to expand black voter registration and challenge the legitimacy of the state's all-white Democratic Party. The Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party members arrived at the 1964 Democratic National Convention, and Fannie Lou Hamer appeared before the convention's Credentials Committee with a message. The words of Fannie Lou Hamer.
The words of Fannie Lou Hamer. All my life I've been sick and tired. Now I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're not fighting against these people because we hate them, but we're fighting against these people because we love them, and we're the only thing that can save them now. We are fighting to save these people from their hate and from all the things that would be so bad against them. We want them to see the right way. Every night of my life that I lay down before I go to sleep, I pray for these people that despitefully use me. And Christ said, the knee shall touch the earth. And he said, before 1:10, not a jot of his word would fail. Heaven and earth would pass away, but his word will stand forever. And I believe tonight that one day in Mississippi, if I have to die for this, we shall overcome. We shall overcome and spoken to me tonight. We shall overcome me as much to me tonight as amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved the rush of me. Because the grace that saved the rush of me, then we shall overcome. Because he said, speak and ye shall find. Knock and the door will be opened. Ask and it shall be given. It was a long time, but now we see. We can see. We can discern the new day. And one day, the little Negro children, the little Negro boys, and the little Negro girls won't be afraid to walk down the street because of so much hate that would make a police jump on the kid. And one day, by standing up, going to the courthouse to try to register and vote, we can get people that's concerned about us. We don't have anything to fear. I don't know today, I don't know tonight whether I'll actually get back to Ruleville, but all that they can destroy is the Fannie Lou Hamer that you meet tonight. But it's the Fannie Lou Hamer that God hold will keep on living day after day.
Derek Bell was a distinguished scholar, prolific writer, tireless champion for equality and of First Church. He helped to develop critical race theory, a body of legal scholarship that explores how racism is embedded in laws and legal institutions. More broadly, over the course of his 5-decade career, he worked courageously to expose the persistence of racism. Professor Bell attended Duquesne University, where he earned a BA in 1952, and the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, where he graduated in 1957 and was the only black graduate in his class. He went on to serve 2 years as an officer in the U.S. Air Force and as a staff attorney in the U.S. Department of Justice, where he resigned his position because the department asked him to withdraw his NAACP membership. Thurgood Marshall recruited Bell to serve as assistant counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, and from 1960 to 1966, he administered 300 desegregation cases regarding schools and restaurants in the South. Professor Bell joined the Harvard Law School faculty as a lecturer in 1969, and in 1971 became its first tenured black professor, but resigned his position in protest to the lack of diversity. He accepted a visiting professorship at the NYU School of Law, where he became an icon. Today, our reading is from his book published in 2002, Ethical Ambition, Living a Life of Meaning and Worth. The words of Derek Bell.
The words of Derek Bell. I do not believe that earlier attempts to combat social injustices were failures, even if they did not realize their goals, or once achieved, proved of only temporary value. I say so, hearkening back to our discussion of faith and remembering this. If our goal is greater than ourselves, our own comfort or gain, and we continue to strive for it, then as feminist leaders proclaimed, failure becomes impossible. In effect, then, failure is inevitable, and there need be no failure. If we can acknowledge that we might think of as a perfect good, one in which everybody benefits and no one is deprived, is not possible, then everything we achieve short of perfection is good. Beyond this, the degree to which our achievements fall short of perfect is the degree to which they can teach us humility. And this humility, the acceptance of inevitable failure, and the willingness each day not to be daunted by it, the conscious connection of our knowledge and our experience, is perhaps the last key to ethical action, an element without which action cannot long be ethical. My goal is to inspire and encourage people to achieve their full potential, while simultaneously affirming for them and with them that the road they travel to success is often filled with barriers placed by a society that relies on inequality for stability. A national awakening on these issues will not come easily, but it is a worthy goal to which individuals and groups, as well as elected officials, can devote their efforts. As reform takes place, there will be less temptation to live unethically, and one hopes plenty of motivation to measure success by efforts to do right by others, which, as all will realize, is the only sure way to do well by yourself.
Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a Baptist minister and social activist who led the civil rights movement from the mid-1950s well into the 1960s. In 1957, he was elected president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization formed to provide new leadership for the expanding civil rights movement. In the 11-year period between 1957 and 1968, Dr. King traveled over 6 million miles and spoke over 2,500 times, appearing whenever there was injustice, protest, and action. During that period, he also wrote 5 books and numerous articles. Dr. King led a massive voter registration protest movement in Birmingham, Alabama, that inspired his letter from a Birmingham jail. He also directed the peaceful march on Washington, D.C., where over 250,000 witnessed his I Have a Dream address. In 1964, Dr. King was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. King was 38 years old when, on the evening of April 4th, 1968, while standing on the balcony of his motel room in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was to lead a protest march in sympathy with striking garbage workers of that city, he was assassinated. The reading you are about to hear, excerpted from his book, Strength to Love, was written 5 years before that fateful day and contains the text of sermons delivered by Dr. King, the words of Martin Luther King.
The words of Martin Luther King. Due to my involvement in the struggle for the freedom of my people, I have known very few quiet days in the last few years. I have been imprisoned in Alabama and Georgia jails 12 times. My home has been bombed twice. A day seldom passes that my family and I are not the recipients of threats of death. I have been the victim of a near-fatal stabbing, so in a real sense, I have been battered by the storm of persecution. I must admit that at times I have felt that I could no longer bear such a heavy burden, and have been tempted to retreat to a more quiet and serene life. But every time such a temptation appeared, something came to strengthen and sustain my determination. I have learned now that the Master's burden is light, precisely when we take his yoke upon us. The agonizing moments through which I have passed during the last few years have also drawn me closer to God. More than ever before, I am convinced of the reality of a personal God. True, I have always believed in the personality of God, but in the past, the idea of a personal God was little more than a metaphysical category that I found theologically and philosophically satisfying. Now it is a living reality that has been validated in the years of experiences of everyday life. God has been profoundly real to me in recent years. In the midst of outer dangers, I have felt an inner calm. In the midst of lonely days and dreary nights, I have heard an inner voice saying, "Lo, I will be with you." When the chains of the fear and the manacles of frustration have all but stymied my efforts, I have felt the power of God transforming the fatigue of my despair into the buoyancy of hope.
Today's program began with the concept of hope and ended with hope. So let us all hope that hope prevails. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's show our appreciation for these young folks.